Our application has three main views. The map view allows us to see institutions and their geographical location. The stack view allows us to see activity of institutions over time. The red line indicates the current year. Finally, the bar view shows the activity of institutions in the current year. In the default view of our application, we see an overall view of the publications made by universities. Each bubble associated to each university corresponds to the number of publications in the current year. Let's get more details. We can zoom into the map. And also we can change the current year to see trends over time. The time slider allows us to change the current year that we are focusing on. You can see that on the right, the stack charter also indicates that the current year has changed. The bar chart view also updates its year information. Also, an additional feature is that on the time slider, we see a summary of the publications in the world. So we see that in the past, there have been little publications, and then they have been steadily increasing. Now let's imagine that somebody is trying to find the institution with most publications. If we're trying to find the most publications in the current year, we simply need to pick out the institution with the greatest area. So the Georgia Institute of Technology has 5 publications this year, while Stanford University has only 3 publications this year. Now, if we're trying to find out the institution with most publications over all years, we will use the stack chart view. We can see that the top 3 universities in terms of publications are MIT, University of Massachusetts, and CMU. To find out the location of these universities, one simply needs to highlight its points on the stack chart. Now, let's say we're interested in getting information about the second most popular university, which is University of Massachusetts. To do this, we simply click on it on the map. This action has changed the application mode to show us the influence of University of Massachusetts on other academic institutions. What we mean by influence of a university is actually the amount of references made to it from other universities. So from the time slider, we can see that a few years back in 2000-2001, the University of Massachusetts has been influential. On the bottom here, we can see the topics which other universities are influenced by. So we can see that University of Massachusetts is very strong at analysis and verification. On the right-hand side, on the slider view, we can see the top universities that are influenced by the University of Massachusetts. Not surprisingly, the University of Massachusetts is most influenced by itself. That is, there are a lot of references from the university to itself. If we are interested to see how this university influences a specific other university, we simply need to select it from the drop-down list. So, for example, if we're interested in the influence between Massachusetts and Williams College, we simply select it. So we see that in the year 2002, there have been 2 references made from Williams College to us, and in 2004, there have been another 2 references made from Williams College to us. Now, not surprisingly, the map view shows where the other referencing institutions are for the current year. So we can see that Massachusetts Institute of Technology has 1 reference in the current year. Now, let's talk about the Conferences tab. So we can click on the conferences, and here we get overall information about conferences. We have 5 conferences related to software engineering in our, and you can see that the top 3 are actually biannual. That is, they happen every 2 years. But this isn't always the case. For example, the AOSD conference, we can see that it happens every year, and it's actually a fairly new conference. By looking at which conferences a university publishes in, we can actually determine the specialization of the university. For instance, we know that the ISTA conference is specialized towards testing and analysis. Now imagine that a student has been accepted at 2 universities. He has been accepted at Georgia Institute of Technology and at Carnegie Mellon. And the student is interested in analysis. So he can actually see which of these 2 universities is most active in the analysis conference. So first he would click on CMU, and he would select ISTA, and we'll see that this university isn't really active in the testing and analysis conference. And we can actually see from the topics that the university is actually focused on other things. Now the student goes to Georgia Tech and wants to see if Georgia Tech is actually influential in ISTA. And we can actually see from the first view that ISTA is the top conference that Georgia Tech publishes in. And so we can see that it's had recent activity in ISTA, and we can see that analysis is one of the hot topics for Georgia Tech. We found some interesting insights using this application. For instance, we found that a lot of institutions have a lot of influence on themselves, not surprisingly. So you can see that Georgia Institute of Technology has a lot of influence on Georgia Tech. And similarly, we've seen before that University of Massachusetts showed the same. Now, we've also found some interesting things about research labs. So, for instance, we can see that Bell Labs has been very influential in conferences in the past, whereas another research lab like Microsoft Research has only just recently started to publish in conferences. Another interesting thing we found is that there is a lot of collaboration between Georgia Tech and University of Nebraska and University of Minnesota. You can see that these are the top 2 and 3 universities which are influenced by Georgia Tech in the domain of software engineering. After some investigation, we found out that some of the faculty at University of Nebraska and University of Minnesota used to be PhD students at Georgia Tech. So it's no wonder that there is this collaboration. That concludes the demo of our application.